Hello, folks. How y'all doing today? Now, folks, there are a few issues, perhaps, that the alt right is having right now. One of them is that many people seem to fail to understand the nature of reality. They want to rely upon morality games and gibberish, but this isn't truth. No, no. In political struggle, the reality is the person who has a secure material and social base has a secure political base from which to struggle from. This is why, say, Hezbollah in Lebanon is so formidable because they control, you know, 20% of the country and something like 15% of the population. You know, this gives them a vast social and economic base on which to build. And because of that, they're an important force. If they didn't have this, the rest of the powers in Lebanon would ignore them. Now, the alt right is largely ignored, though this may be to our advantage. But we're ignored because we don't have these things. Now, with the being ignored, this is an advantage because the enemy assumes we're weak, impotent, and cannot at any point ever develop out of this phase. Well, this is a lie. This is a pure lie. Every group of people is capable of organizing, taking what resources they have, administering them correctly, and growing. This is a pure truth. Okay, whether we will or not is a whole other issue, but we can. Okay. And I say that, much like on what is that show? The Count of Monte Cristo. Their neglect will become, a strength to us. Do you understand? They'll think that they have us defeated because they have these Antifa in the cities. Well, okay. There have been other movements before and counter movements where one has seized the city and one has went out of the city. And in the end, always the ones that went out of the city are the ones who are the victors. Always. Every time. I tell you this. It's counterintuitive to you urban members of the alt-right who are listening to this. You can't understand this, but I tell you that historically it's true, and if you had the time and were to sit here and, have a tea with me or something, I could easily persuade you of what I'm saying using history. But the reason is that the resources that cities depend upon are in the rural areas. And when these counter movements or movements, whichever way you'd like to look at it, whichever side you're viewing it from, that control the rural areas, exercised power. They used the resources not to fuel the cities, but for their own purposes, you see. And the cities were starved, and then they were surrounded and reduced. That's exactly how it ends in almost all of these. It's a very simple concept. Now, usually this is difficult for these counter movements because the rural people are, they're different because normally how it works is the urban population is different from the rural population. And largely in the multicultural part of the cities this is true because the rural population in North America are whites. Okay, they're German, Irish, English, and some Scots, Italians too, whites. Okay, all right, and pretty much they're British in Canada, but the whites. And well, it so happens for us alt writers that that's convenient because we're whites, huh? So if we were to want to have to go out to these people, unlike say the Han Chinese that had to learn a whole another way of thinking and stuff, because these people actually spoke a different dialect of Chinese at the time, we don't have to do that. We just have to get past y'all and a couple of drawls and learn that Sunday's important because it's God's day, and just a couple other basics. And hey, we've already got a custom crafted rural population that one doesn't trust the Democrats anymore, doesn't trust the GOP, doesn't trust the media, hates the banking finance system, hates the job market situation, right? In other words, who is utterly ripe for a movement that teaches strength, pride, self-reliance, the idea that we can be our own bankers, that we can create jobs if we have resources. You understand? right? That a movement that's based on leadership by example, not leadership by bullshit. A movement that's based on, based on truth, right? You see, in other words, basically, these people are completely apathetic to the exact things about the system that the alt-right, us, are objecting to. And, they're just as open to our ideas as any other ideas, right? They're already basically all white towns. If we tell them, hey, why don't we make an ethno-state, they might say, hell yeah, it's worth a try, And in my experience, the only thing that would really need to be done to get this done is to earn their trust and their respect. And that would be done by, alt-righters going out to these towns, setting up shop, doing useful stuff that helps people, and living the ideals that the alt-right preaches. Now, for myself, I know what that is because I've written out an extensive 193-page sort of memo to myself. Y'all can read it too. If you'd like to follow it, you can. I don't sound like a religion or anything. I'm just saying, in it to try to be frugal, honest, truthful, right? These are basic values that I hold that are beyond any soppy, moral, altruistic gibberish. They're good because they create social capital, and that social capital helps us build the things which are useful to our life, right? Well, by being an example of this, you will show others that this is a good way. They will come in to this, and they will start to live this way. And instead of just saying things like people do in this Democrat and Republican system, people will do things, you see. And we will become nationalists. These rural towns will become alt-right, ethno-state, nationalist enclaves, not because of thinking, not because of talking, but because of thought and action becoming into unison, into harmony, going forward. Do you understand? Right? And out there in those rural areas are printing presses that are just laying about that can be bought cheaply. There are the rudiments of industry that can be bought cheaply. There are natural resources. There are labor that can be employed. There are every skill in the world out there if you can find them and organize them. Okay, mostly it's a matter of giving them hope, giving them a promised land to look forward to, giving them a light, a beacon, something to say, this is worth living for. And in doing so, you will have fled yourself from the death-inducing cities. The strongholds of this death cult are in the urban areas. You will have fled to their first, most hated people, the rural whites. And in doing so, you will have taken away from the system the bottom of their shit chain, the people at the bottom. These people will now be strong and proud, and they will believe in what you say and what you preach in the alt-right's way. Do you understand? And this will give us a counterbalance to these cities. This will allow us the resources and the enclaval base areas necessary for life to prevail over the death cult, for our people to one day do exactly what the monks did at the end of antiquity: storm the cities, burn all remnants of the former order, and establish our way as a new, life-affirming cultural epoch. Yes, all of this is possible by simply going to small-town America in 3 and 4 and 5-man bands and working quietly towards the ideals of the alt-right, which are essentially life-affirming, forward progress. If I had to make it easy, I could make it as easy as, what do we want on the alt-right? We want one people in one land, living by one law, under the light of one culture. Okay? That's what we want. Or one people, one land, one law.